SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation. SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation.
රෝස සුවඳ තවත් තිකු කලක් රැඳෙන්න ඩබල් පර්ෆියුම් ලුක් සමගින් එන නව සන්ලයිට් රෝස්.
Tonight, don't be the cause. Medical experts address vaccine hesitancy, warning that belief in misinformed facts could spur the next pandemic. Not the right time. As the long weekend kicks off today, police warn of a zero-tolerance policy on travellers, while health experts call for responsibility.
There will be a long weekend, earnestly requesting people of this country. It is not the time to relax fully.
Rainy days. The Met Department issues an amber alert for sea areas, with showers expected through the next few days. All this and much more coming up on this Saturday, the 16th of October 2021.
Kill Smart Family Season 4.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I am Shanella Fernando in your top stories for tonight. Today is a special day for TV Derana, where we mark 16 long and eventful years of providing Sri Lanka with quality news, views and the highest quality of entertainment Sri Lanka has ever seen. To mark the occasion, a new project was launched today named AdaDerana, which will aim to help Sri Lanka's youth to realize their long-held hopes and dreams of a better life through a special financial aid program.
On October 11, 2005, TV Derana stepped into the world of media with the promise of bringing innovative television to Sri Lankan viewers. Confined to the western province back then, TV Derana today is a complete network consisting of FM Derana, AdaDerana Web and AdaDerana. TV Derana has so far introduced many talents to the country via its reality shows Little Star, Derana Dream Star and Derana City of Dance. Not only did TV Derana produce many artists, but through the Derana Music Video Awards and Derana Film Awards, it also recognized the contribution of such artists in the field of art. TV Derana also hosts the Sri Lankan of the Year Awards to acknowledge personalities who have made invaluable contribution to the country in various fields. The very many awards under TV Derana's news brand AdaDerana also bears witness to the credibility of news provided as well as the love showered upon it by people of this country. Further, TV Derana's YouTube channel also made history, becoming the first and only TV channel in the country to reach 3 million subscribers, which is a testament how well the channel has been embraced by the country's audiences. The TV Derana humanitarian arm AdaDerana is known for the social service it provides to the people of the country when most in need. To celebrate this special day, a special program kicked off at 8 AM this morning. During the program, TV Derana launched its latest national project AdaDerana, with the objective of providing financial aid to the country's youth under the age of 18 to fulfill their dreams. Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena issued a plea to the members of the public today not to lower their guard by venturing out on pleasure trips during the long weekend. He added that the long weekend shouldn't be the reason for another surge in cases similar to what was the case during the post-Sinhala and Tamil New Year outbreak. Meanwhile, interprovincial travel restrictions are also in full implementation starting from today, with police planning on taking strict legal action against anyone attempting to ignore the rules. Interprovincial travel restrictions were tightened to limit public movements during the long weekend starting from today, with 2 public holidays falling in the middle of the week as well. The move comes following strict instructions issued by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to the police to take zero-tolerance stance until Thursday the 21st in attempts to prevent a further spread of the virus, given that the country is still reporting daily cases in the excess of 500. Accordingly, the police headquarters announced that restrictions on interprovincial travel will be strictly enforced during the long weekend starting today.
Accordingly, all vehicles crossing provincial borders will be thoroughly checked, with the police media spokesperson, Senior Superintendent of Police, announcing that any violators of quarantine rules and regulations will be strictly dealt with. The police have also warned anyone attempting to use the long weekend to go on leisure trips and pilgrimages to avoid doing so.
මේ දිනවල පවතින දීර්ඝ සතියන්තය නිසා විවිධ පුද්ගලයන් විනෝදචාරිකා වන්දනාචාරිකා සංවිධානය කොට පළාත් මායිම් පසුකොට යාමට කටයුතු කරන බවට තොරතුරු ලැබී තිබෙනවා. එම නිසා මෙම සියලු මාර්ගබාධක නිලධාරීන්ට ඔවුන්ගේ මාර්ගබාධක හරහා ගමන් කරන වාහන සහ පුද්ගලයන් පිළිබඳව දැඩි අවධානයෙන් යුතුව පරීක්ෂා කිරීම වලට ලක් කරන ලෙසත් නිරෝධායන නීති සහ සංචරණ සීමා උල්ලංඝනය කරමින් කටයුතු කරන පුද්ගලයන්ට එරෙහිව නීතිය දැඩිව ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන ලෙසටත් උපදෙස් ලබා දී තිබෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena too advised people against organising excursions during the long weekend, saying that this is not the time to let down our guard.
There will be a long weekend, and now we have got several news that most of the people are already organizing trips. So we are not against enjoying their leisure time, but still we are experiencing 700 positive cases per day. So this type of the similar scenario we have experienced before the new year. So I am earnestly requesting from people of this country, it is not the time to relax fully.
The DG Health Services also added that new travel restrictions will be imposed from today until the 31st of this month, that will entail a gradual easing of some restrictions. However, interprovincial restrictions will stay in place until the 21st of this month.
We are imposing the new travel restriction from 16th to 31st of October. From October 1, we have imposed several restrictions, and we are in the process of relaxing some of the restrictions which are already imposed by us from 16th onwards. But still, interprovincial travel restrictions will be there until 21st of this month. So there won't be any buses operating interprovincially. No train service will be there until 21st of October. So from the 21st, the government will decide what's the next course of action regarding the transport.
Health experts said today that when people who choose to not get vaccinated must bear in mind that such actions could lead to another pandemic. Epidemiologist of the Colombo Municipal Council, Dr. Dinuka Guruge, made these remarks today, saying that this is always a risk due to some members of the society who can't get vaccinated, such as children under the age of 12.
Sri Lanka's vaccine drive has so far seen the complete inoculation of 87.1% of the country's over 20s population so far. The figures predominantly consist of the country's over 30s population, over 95% of whom have been fully vaccinated. With this being the case, the prime focus of health officials has been the country's 20 to 30-year-olds and child vaccinations. In recent times, the vaccine drive targeting the country's 20 to 30 years has faced hiccups due to vaccine hesitancy brought on by misinformation and fake news circulated on social media. Despite the numerous clarifications offered by health officials refuting these unverified claims, it doesn't seem to be convincing young adults. The issue has become so concerning that former captain of the Sri Lanka cricket team, Angelo Matthews, issued a clarion call targeting people across all age groups to go and get vaccinated.
එන්නත තමයි අපිට තියෙන එකම සොලියුෂන් එක. ඉතින් මේ එන්නත ලබා ගත්තොත් මරණ සංඛ්‍යාව හුඟක් අඩු වෙනවා කියලා දත්ත වලින් පෙන්නලා තියෙනවා. ඒ විශේෂඥයන් පෙන්නලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මම කාරුණිකව ඔබ සියලුම දෙනාගෙන්ම ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා මිත්‍යාවන් වලට සහ මේ වැරදි වැටහීම් වලට ඔබගේ හිත් වලට ඉඩ දෙන්නේ නැතුව පුළුවන් තරම් ඉක්මනින් මේ එන්නත ලබාගෙන ඔබත් ඔබගේ පවුලේ අයත් සුරක්ෂිත ජීවිතයකට ඉඩ ප්‍රස්තාව ලබා දෙන්න කියලා මම කාරුණිකව ඉල්ලනවා.
Further, some of the reasons for people to refuse vaccinations have been based on vaccinated people still getting infected and in some cases dying as well. In response to this, health experts show how vaccines have been able to reduce oxygen dependency in COVID patients as well as deaths in the recent past.
මේ රතු පාටින් පෙන්වන්නේ එක එක දවස්වල ඔක්සිජන් දෙන්න වෙච්ච ලෙඩ්ඩු ගන්න. නිල් පාටින් පෙන්වන්නේ අපිට තිබුණ හොස්පිටල් වල ඔක්සිජන් දෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙච්ච හැකියාවෙන් ලෙඩ්ඩු කී දෙනෙකුට අපිට ඔක්සිජන් දෙන්න තරම් ඔක්සිජන් තිබ්බද කියන එක. ඔයගලන්ට පේනවා ඇති මේ ඔක්සිජන් දෙන්න ඕන කරන ලෙඩ්ඩු ගාන ටික ටික වැඩි වෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ අමාරු වෙන ගාන වැඩි වෙනවා. අමාරු වෙන ගාන වැඩි වෙනවා කියන්නේ අනිත් පැත්තට මැරෙන ගානත් වැඩි වෙනවා. හැබැයි එක වෙලාවකදී පේනවා මෙන්න මේ අමාරු වෙන ලෙඩ්ඩු ගාන ඔක්සිජන් දෙන්න ඕන ලෙඩ්ඩු ගාන අඩු වෙනවා. හිමීට අඩු වෙලා පල්ලෙහාට යනවා. මෙන්න මේ තැන තමයි අපි අපේ දිස්ත්‍රික්කේ හරියට වැක්සිනේෂන් කම්ප්ලීට් කරපු තැන. වැක්සිනේෂන් සෑහෙන මට්ටමකට කම්ප්ලීට් වුණාට පස්සේ අපිට පැහැදිලිව පෙනුන දේ තමයි දැන් අමාරු වෙන ප්‍රමාණය අඩු වෙනවා, මරණ ගාන අඩු වෙනවා. ඒක නිසා දිස්ත්‍රික්කයක් හැට වගේම රටක් හැටම ලෝකයක් හැටියට වැක්සිනේෂන් කවරේජ් එක හොඳට එනකොට මේ අමාරු වෙන ගාන සහ මරණ ගාන අඩු වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, a misconception that has been widely propagated and believed by many are that vaccines cause subfertility and impotency. The myth has deterred many young adults from getting the vaccine. However, epidemiologist of the Colombo Municipal Council Dr. Dinuka Guruge explained how avoiding vaccines could lead to another outbreak of the virus.
අපේ මේ තත්ත්වයේදී අපි අවුරුදු 60ට වැඩි 90 ගානක්ම 98ක් 99ක්ම ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් ගහලා තියෙනවා. 30ට වැඩි කට්ටියත් ඔන්න ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් ගහලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මුළු සමාජයේම අපි මේ herd immunity phenomenon කියන එක මුළු සමාජයෙන්ම හැමෝටම ඉන්නත් ලබා දෙනකොට තාමත් අපිට ඉන්නවා සමාජයේ කොටසක් කොහොමදවත් තාම ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් දෙන්න බැරි කට්ටිය. අපේ අවුරුදු 12ට අඩු දරුවන්. ඉතින් හදිස්සියෙවත් ඔබලා ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් එකක්වත් ගත්තේ නැත්නම් තාම පැන්ඩෙමික් එකක් ඇති කරන්න පුළුවන් කොට්ටාශයක් ඉන්න බව අමතක කරන්න එපා.
In the meantime, Dr. Guru explained the rationale behind the country's decision to administer just one dose of the Pfizer vaccine to children aged below 19 who do not have underlying health conditions.
ඇමරිකාවේ සහ සෙසු යුරෝපීය රටවල අවුරුදු 12ට වැඩි බොහෝ දරුවන්ට ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් එක දෙනවා. Pfizer ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් එක දෙන්නේ. සමහර කට්ටියට මොඩර්නාත් දෙනවා. සමහර දරුවන් අවුරුදු 16ට අඩු පිරිමි දරුවන්ට මයෝකාඩයිටිස් කියන තත්ත්වය ඇති වෙලා තියෙනවා. දෙවන මාත්‍රාව ලබා ගැනීමෙන් පස්සේ. ඒක නිසා රජයෙන් තීරණයක් අරන් තිබුණා. අවුරුදු 19ට අඩු සියලු දෙනාට Pfizer එන්නතේ පළවෙනි මාත්‍රාව විතරක් දැනට දෙන්න. මොකද තාම එන්නත් කිරණය කිරීමේ දත්ත අපිට තාම ලැබිලා නැහැ. මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි දරුවන්ට වෙන රෝග ලක්ෂණ වෙන රෝග තියෙනවා කියන්නේ කැන්සර් එකක් හරි වෙන මොනවා හරි ඉමුනිටි එක පිළිබඳ වෙනත් රෝගාබාධ ජානමය සංකූලතා තියෙනවා නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ට මාත්‍රා දෙකම ලබා දෙනවා.
In the meantime, the Sri Lankan health officials said today that over 6,000 students aged between 18 and 19 years old were vaccinated yesterday with Pfizer vaccine. Officials said that the turnout of students for the vaccine program initiated yesterday was good.
The Department of Meteorology says that rough sea conditions are expected in the deep and shallow sea areas extending from Kankasanture to Puttalam via Mana as well as from Galle to Pothuil via Matara and Hambantota. Brought on by the westerly wind bursts, the director forecast of the Met Department says that these sea areas will be rough or very rough at times with wind speeds of up to 70 kilometers per hour expected. The Department of Meteorology has issued an amber advisory for rough seas and strong winds around the coastal area of the island, cautioning the naval and fishing communities to be vigilant when venturing into the sea. Rough conditions are expected in deep and shallow sea areas, particularly from Kankasanture to Puttalam via Mana, as well as the area from Galle to Pothuil via Matara and Hambantota. The department cautions that wind speeds can go up to 70 kilometers per hour in the sea area extending from Kankasanture to Puttalam via Mana, adding that these sea areas will be rough or very rough at times. In the sea area extending from Galle to Pothuil via Matara and Hambantota, wind speeds are expected to increase up to 60 kilometers per hour.
Strong gusty winds can be expected over sea areas extending from Puttalam to Kankasanture as well as Galle to Pothuil via Hambantota tonight and tomorrow morning. So these sea areas will be very rough at times. There is a phenomena called westerly wind bursts developed over west of Sri Lanka around the Maldives Islands and those areas. So that's why we experience this kind of strong gusty winds at times.
Meanwhile, in an update on the rainy conditions over the island for tomorrow, several spells of showers are expected in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central and northwestern provinces, as well as in Galle and Matara districts. The department forecasts a few showers in the northern and north-central provinces, adding that mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere over the island. Wind speeds too can increase up to 30 to 40 kilometers per hour at times in the western slope of the central hills, northern, north-central, northwestern and southern provinces, and in the Trincomalee district. However, no heavy showers are expected over the island, as per the directive forecast of the Met Department.
Regarding the showery condition over the island, tomorrow also we can expect several spells of showers over western, southern, Sabaragamo and central provinces as well as northwestern province. But we don't expect heavy showers tomorrow and today also.
Big 3.
The US Food and Drug Administration announced that it would be taking measures to fast-track the emergency authorization of the world's first oral antiviral drug, molnupiravir, developed in the United States. It says that the data on the drug would be presented before an advisory committee of the Food and Drug Administration, as it would be the process that must be followed if the drug is to get emergency use authorization.
Many of the antiviral treatments developed against COVID-19 are ones that are delivered intravenously. So far, the World Health Organization has granted emergency use authorization for 7 COVID-19 vaccines. However, for the first time in the world, American pharmaceutical company Merck announced its oral antiviral treatment for COVID-19. The company has stated that its antiviral drug, molnupiravir, currently being developed, was able to cut hospitalization and deaths by half. As such, the US Food and Drug Administration has taken measures to review the data for the pill through the administration's advisory committee. The FDA stated that they believe in this instance a public discussion of the data with the agency's advisory committee will help ensure understanding of the scientific data and information that the FDA is evaluating to make a decision about whether to authorize this treatment for emergency use. The drug molnupiravir works by introducing errors into viral genetic material that eventually makes the pathogen defunct. However, some experts have questioned as to how the drug may impact growing cells in the human body, potentially raising the risk of birth defects. However, company officials stated that the drug has been able to produce clean and efficient results. A planned interim analysis of 775 patients in Merck's study found that 7.3% of those given molnupiravir were either hospitalized or had died by 29 days after treatment, compared with 14.1% of placebo patients.
The Our Power of People party has decided to expel Venerable Athuraliya Ratanathera, who currently occupies its single national list parliamentary seat. The party's national organizer, Dr. Susantha Kodituwaku, says that the decision was taken due to what he termed the Thera's involvement in conspiracies to destabilize the government.
National organizer of the Our Power of People party, Dr. Susantha Kodituwaku, announced today that the party has informed both the Elections Commissioner and the General Secretary of Parliament of the expulsion of its nationalist parliamentarian, Venerable Athuraliya Ratanathera. Dr. Kodituwaku revealed that the party membership had arrived at a unanimous decision to replace Thera with another candidate. The party, he added, has listed a score of allegations against Thera, including an alleged conspiracy with regards to the chemical fertilizer issue.
මේ ඡන්දේ දීපු මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ඡන්දය මංකොල්ල කාලා නේද ඒ ඡන්දය තමන්ගේ දේශපාලන ඩීල් වලට පාවිච්චි කරන മന്ത്രിවරයෙක් පක්ෂයකට වැඩක් නැහැනේ රස්සාවක් කරන්නේ හැමදාම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ඉන්න උන්වහන්සේට ඕන ඔබ බලන්න එක පැත්තකින් මේ රසායනික පොහොර එකපාරම නවත්තලා කාබනික පොහොර අර්බුදය ආවේ මේ රතන හාමුදුරුවන්ගේ කුමන්ත්‍රණයක ප්‍රතිඵලයක් වශයෙන් පැහැදිලිව අපි සමගත් සාකච්ඡා කරලා තිනවා උන්වහන්සේගේ දේශපාලන න්‍යාය පත්‍රය වෙලා තියෙන වෙනදා වගේම ආණ්ඩුව ඇතුලේ ඉඳලා යම් මොහොතක ආණ්ඩුවේ කොටසක් කඩාගෙන රටේ දේශපාලන අස්ථාවරත්වයක් ඇති කිරීම. මොකද මේ වගේ ව්‍යසනයක් තියෙන වෙලාවක ආහාර නිෂ්පාදනය කඩා වැටෙනවා කියන්නේ රටට ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඉතින් මේවා වැරදි උපදෙස්. එතකොට මේ ආණ්ඩුව ඇතුලේ මේ ගිනි තැබීමේ කාර්යයට අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා උන්වහන්සේ දායක වෙලා තිනවා. ඉතින් මේක පක්ෂයේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය නෙමෙයි.
The Sri Lanka Freedom Party is to call on the government to hold the long-delayed provincial council election as soon as possible. The decision was taken at a meeting of the party's Central Committee yesterday, chaired by party chairman former President Maithripala Sirisena, who told media afterwards that no discussions have been held on whether the party will go it or not.
At a meeting held yesterday, chaired by party leader former President Maithripala Sirisena, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party's Central Committee has unanimously decided to call on the government to hold provincial council elections as soon as possible. SLFP General Secretary State Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara says that the party aims to offer the government its fullest support in holding the elections.
පළාත් සභා මැතිවරණ දැන් අවුරුදු ගාණක් පරක්කු වෙලා තිබෙන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මම හිතන්නේ ඒක ඉක්මනින් පැවැත්වීමට ආණ්ඩුව කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවා. තේරීම් කාරක සභාවකුත් පත් කරලා වැඩ කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවා. මම හිතන්නේ ඒ තවත් ඉක්මන් කිරීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කරන කටයුතු ටිකට අපේ සහයෝගය දෙනවා.
Further speaking to media personnel after the meeting, party chairman former President Maithripala Sirisena also revealed that no final decision has been taken yet on whether the SLFP will contest the elections alone.
අපි මැතිවරණයට මුහුණ දීමට උදානම් වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඉදිරි මැතිවරණ ජයග්‍රහණය සඳහා පක්ෂයේ සියලු අංශ ශක්තිමත් කිරීමේ වැඩපිළිවෙල තමයි සාකච්ඡා කළේ. ඉස්සරහට තමයි තනියමද ආණ්ඩුව එක්කද කියලා එහෙම තාම ඒ ගැන අපි සාකච්ඡා කරේ නැහැ.
A high-tech corvette and 2 attack submarines of the Russian Navy's Pacific Fleet docked at the port of Colombo today to take on supplies and allow their crews to enjoy some much-needed showtime in Colombo. Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulugethanna paid a visit to the Russian vessels and exchanged mementos with the vessels' captains.
A squadron of the Russian Navy's Pacific Fleet docked at the Colombo port for replenishment today. The squadron consists of a high-tech Grimyashi-class corvette and 2 next-generation Kilo-class submarines B-603 and B-274. The Grimyashi-class corvette is a 107-meter-long platform that carries some of the Russian Navy's most modern naval weaponry, including the hypersonic Zircon anti-ship missiles. The 2 Kilo-class attack submarines are 73 meters in length and powered by diesel-electric propulsion, renowned as some of the world's most silent submarines in existence and nicknamed Black Hole Subs by NATO. The Russian squadron was accorded a traditional naval welcome as they entered the port of Colombo today. Meanwhile, Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulugethanna paid a visit to the Russian vessels and met with the commander of the squadron as well as the commanding officers of the other units. Meanwhile, the Russian crew are expected to engage in a sightseeing tour in the commercial capital of Colombo tomorrow, while the commanding officers of the squadron and other units are scheduled to call on the commander of Western Naval Area on Monday before their departure the same day.
In business news, US stocks rose yesterday with the Dow scoring its biggest weekly percentage gain since June as Goldman Sachs rounded out a week of strong quarterly earnings for big banks. Goldman Sachs Group shares jumped 3.8% and gave the Dow its biggest boost as a record wave of deal-making activity drove a surge in the bank's quarterly profit. Banks were among the biggest positives for the S&P 500 on the day, and the index's bank index climbed 2.1%. Results from big financial institutions provided a strong start to third quarter US earnings, though investors will still watch in coming weeks for signs of impacts from supply chain disruptions and higher costs, especially for energy. Forecasts now call for third quarter S&P 500 earnings to show a 32% rise from a year ago. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 382.2 points or 1.09% to 35,294.76. The S&P 500 gained 33.11 points or 0.575% rather to 4,471.37, and the Nasdaq Composite added 73.91 points or 0.5% to 14,897.34. The Dow jumped 1.6% for the week, its biggest weekly percentage gain since June 25. The S&P 500 had its strongest weekly advance since July 23rd. Welcome back in international news. The 15th United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, better known as COP15, ended in Kunming, China yesterday with pledges to reverse the current loss of biodiversity and ensure that the world is put on a path to recovery by 2030 at the latest. Meanwhile, China has pledged $233 million to establish a biodiversity fund to support biodiversity protection in developing countries.
The first part of the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, or COP15, concluded yesterday in Kunming, the capital city of southwest China's Yunnan province. Themed Ecological Civilization, Building a Shared Future for All Life on Earth, COP15 is the first global conference convened by the United Nations, highlighting ecological civilization, a philosophy proposed by China. The Kunming Declaration was adopted during the meeting as the main achievement. The declaration commits to ensuring the development, adoption and implementation of an effective post-2020 global biodiversity framework to reverse the current loss of biodiversity and ensure that it is put on a path to recovery by 2030 at the latest, towards the full realization of the 2050 vision of living in harmony with nature, part of the Aichi biodiversity targets adopted by the UN in 2011. At the COP15 Leaders Summit, Chinese President Xi Jinping announced an initiative to establish a biodiversity fund and take the lead by investing $233 million to support biodiversity protection in developing countries. The second part of the meeting, to be held offline in Kunming in the first half of next year, is expected to see the finalization and adoption of an ambitious and practical post-2020 global biodiversity framework.
China launched a spacecraft today carrying 3 astronauts, including 1 woman, to the core module of a future space station where they are due to stay for 6 months, the longest duration in orbit for Chinese astronauts. A long March 2F rocket carrying the Shenzhou 13 spacecraft blasted off from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the northwestern province of Guangzhou at 12:23 a.m. Beijing time. China began construction of what will be its first permanent space station in April with the launch of the Tianhe, the first and largest of the station's 3 modules. The astronauts are to work and stay on Tianhe, the living quarters of the future space station, for 6 months. A send-off ceremony was held for the 3 Chinese astronauts yesterday before they boarded the Shenzhou 13 spaceship for the country's longest crewed mission to date. In the latest mission, astronauts will carry out tests of the key technologies and robotics needed to assemble the space station, verify onboard life support systems and conduct a host of scientific experiments. With the ISS set to retire in a few years, China's space station will become the only one in Earth's orbit. With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Have a good night.